Hello and welcome to Property Fundamentals. This is the channel to get up-to-date property investment information for cities across the UK. First of all, we'll analyse the data. Then, we'll identify the best areas to invest in. In this video, we'll look at Peterborough in 2023. Here we have the mean sold property price by ward for detached properties in Peterborough. Generally, the north-western wards are the most expensive to invest in. These are the sold prices for the semi-detached properties. The ward of Barnack is particularly expensive in comparison to the rest. With terraced housing, the wards towards the centre of the city are all a similar price. For flats, the wards of North and Wharton Waterville are particularly cheap. And finally, we have the combined sold prices for all property types. The overall price trend for Peterborough is that the north-western parts are the most expensive to invest in. This is a map of the public transport routes in Peterborough. There are multiple train stations within the southern part of the city, and the A1M runs by the southern and western parts of the city. These are the Ofsted ratings for schools in Peterborough. There is a particular concentration of good schools in the northern central part of the city. The picture elsewhere is mixed. Here are the institutions of higher education in Peterborough. The majority of these institutions are concentrated in the city centre, making them an ideal location for student-lets. The dark blue areas show places which have a flooding risk within Peterborough. There are significant areas of flooding in the eastern and southern parts of Peterborough. Investors will want to be particularly careful when considering these areas. With burglary over a 3-month period, the ward of Central at the centre of the city is the worst affected. For universal credit, the centre of the city has the highest percentage of claimants. The percentage of claimants appears to generally reduce as we move further away from the centre of the city. However, there is also a high number of claimants in the southern part of the city. Finally, for housing benefit, the majority of the claimants appear to be in the eastern part of the city. Now that we've looked at the data, we can now analyse it to find the best areas within Peterborough to invest. Before this, if you haven't already, I'd recommend you watch my other video, which explains how to interpret this analysis. The map below shows the desirability of the various wards within Peterborough. Data from the housing benefit claimants, universal credit claimants, burglary data, and schools have been collated to give an overall picture of which areas are desirable and which are not. The flood data has been excluded from this analysis due to it not being in a form to be quantified in this instance. The general trend for location desirability within Peterborough is that the picture is mixed. The rural wards on the outskirts are particularly desirable, but within the city itself there are desirable and undesirable areas right next to each other. Investors will want to be careful to make sure that their investment is not too close to an undesirable area. The tables below show the quantified results of average property prices and the desirability ranking. Generally, the wards which are the cheapest are the least desirable, and vice versa. We are looking for exceptions where a desirable area is cheap, as this is an area which may provide a high return on investment over the long term. These cheap but desirable areas will become more obvious when we visualise the data. Here we have a visualisation of the average property prices against location desirability for the wards in Peterborough. The data shows that most wards are as expected, because the least desirable wards are cheap and the most desirable wards are expensive. The wards of Gunthorpe and also Warrington are fairly inexpensive, but they offer a relatively high desirability, so they may make good investment choices in the long term. For the rural wards, Wittering offers great value as it is much cheaper than Barnack or Glinton and Castor, and it has excellent transport links, with the A1M being nearby. The wards of West and Hampton Vale look like they are wards to avoid because they are fairly undesirable for their price. Although Barnack, for instance, is very desirable, its price does not seem to be justified, considering that Glinton and Castor, which is next to it, is more desirable and less expensive. Hopefully this gives you an idea of where to start with your investment in Peterborough. Remember to do your own research and to get anecdotal evidence to see if it lines up with the data. Thank you for watching this episode of Property Fundamentals. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you again next time.